Welcome back to another episode of the Jersey Oddcast with Joseph F. Bernato, Gabriel J. Donio, and me, Gina Rullo. What's happening, guys?
How are you?
Can't
Hey,
complain.
Gina.
Really can't complain. It's been a busy week, a lot happening. Everything from a little snow, a little football, and a bunch of things in between. Joe, did you go to the Feast of St. Anthony this week? Last week, I should say?
Yeah, on January 17th, the first Mass for the Feast of St. Anthony the Abbot was held in, I believe, 20 years. It had been a while. It was surprisingly well attended for a Mass at 6 p.m. on a Friday. There were between 50 and 60 people there. They seemed to really be into it and enjoy themselves. And then afterwards, there was a dinner at the Knights of Columbus Hall right around the corner. And that was equally well attended. So it went very well.
That sounds like it was a nice mix of, the church, the St. Anthony the Abbot Society, and the Knights of Columbus, these different Catholic groups getting together.
Yeah, and in addition to the knights that were in attendance, there were also members of the St. John the Baptist Society and the Our Lady of Mount Carmel Society and a few members of the Altar Rosary Society. So it was pretty well
Oh,
attended.
wow.
Yeah,
Oh, I'd
I
love to
think
hear
what
that.
I think what makes again everything stand out as a unique, besides the mass itself and everything, but as a run up to the 150th of the Feast of Our Lady of Mount Carmel in July, it's amazing to see societies that, I mean, let's face it, vanished in most places decades ago, putting things on for the first time, as Joe said, in 20 years. I mean, I think it says something about the community. It says something about the faith that people are into it and they are coming out to, like Joe said again, Friday, at 6 o'clock, you get that kind of number to a mass. It's pretty amazing.
absolutely. It speaks not only, I think, to the faith, but also to the desire to reconnect with one's history. And that's, the St. Anthony the Abbot Society had been around for almost 100 years. I believe it was incorporated sometime in the 1950s, but the society itself existed in the 19 teens, the 1920s, and a lot of people's families were involved with that. And when that fell by the wayside, you didn't have that familial tradition. And same thing with the St. John the Baptist Society. I can remember growing up, every Feast of St. John, there would be fireworks. And when the society started to lose members, then obviously that went by the wayside as well. But now that's coming back. The St. Anthony Society is coming back. And a lot of that, I believe, has to do with those two things, both faith and the desire to reconnect with one's roots.
Yeah,
It's
well
very
put.
encouraging to see. I'm excited about it. Speaking of things that are encouraging, Gabe, you had an interesting phone call with a local business owner, I believe, on Friday last week, who had some comments about our new Oddcast.
Well, just a text back and forth with a local business owner who relayed to me that they were pretty excited about the fact that we were doing what we were doing, and then actually kind of hand wrote and sent it to me, a picture of it, a kind of a letter of the town and what it is, what it isn't, and we're seeing that kind of engagement again now, where this after only a few episodes, the people are starting to kind of connect with us. I don't know. Are you guys seeing the same thing with people?
Absolutely. That's kind of the buzz that I've been getting.
For sure, yeah. It doesn't matter whether you're at the local hair salon or you're grabbing a slice of pizza somewhere. People are excited to see us. They want to talk about what's going on in town or what's going on in the region. So it's really gratifying to see that people have missed our insights, our humor, and I think they kind of like the way we all get along, which has been developed, of course, after knowing each other for, almost 30 years. So there is something to be said for that, and it's very warming. So we appreciate that.
That is a
Yeah,
long
and it was a
time.
big lift. It is a long time. It is. It is. That is when you start measuring it in decades, you start to realize how long. But I always like what Springsteen said, which is the longer it goes, the better it gets.
Yeah.
And I think that in our case, that's been true. I just want to thank that business owner personally for taking the time out to encourage what we're doing. So I think we're seeing a nice groundswell of support out there.
I do think that's fun. Gabe always says when talking about something that's a length of time, I think Gabe measures time by how old a t-shirt is. He'll say to someone, I have t-shirts older than you. And he does. And we know this because we have made two quilts out of all of Gabe's t-shirts that he has that are excess
Oh,
t-shirts.
wow.
And those go back to his Bulldogs days through like the Ronald Reagan visit, his time abroad, and all different things. So Gabe does have t-shirts that are
Yeah,
quite old
they're
by
they're,
most people's
they're made.
standard.
Gina said it best. They're XS T-shirts. There are also a lot of XL and L T-shirts. Making That's why they're in a quilt because I don't fit in them. But they look great on a quilt. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, that's
But it
good.
If you
does.
could
It
fit in
is
your
true.
if you could fit in your Bulldogs t-shirt, I mean that would be pretty
Nah, I think
something.
it
I don't know if it would be a good thing.
might fit on this arm. That T-shirt.
Joe, were you in the Bulldogs?
I was in absolutely zero sports organizations, although, as I understand
Oh,
it, my high school's transcript does say that I played freshman football, but I think they have me confused with another Joe Bernato.
It does happen.
Yeah.
That does
I
happen.
would love to see Joe Bernato, in a football uniform at that age. I think that would be a wonderful photo or memory
Yeah. No, I mean,
if that actually existed.
no, I used to play sports with my friends. We played a lot of soccer, a lot of basketball. We play like football in the yard. But to say, was I a member of an organized sport? No. Part of that came from the fact that I've been wearing glasses since I was 2.5 years old. And when I was very young, they wanted me to take off my glasses, and then I couldn't see anything. So that was not a route that I was willing to explore.
Fair enough. Speaking of football, a familiar name has been in the news lately in several different media outlets, and
It's
that would be our good friend John Rodeo, Sign
the
Man.
Signman.
Yeah.
John Signman Rodeo has made an amazing comeback here in 2025, late 2024. I don't know if it's just nostalgia, like the Kelly Green uniforms or what, but the sign man and his signs made out of, I'm pretty sure, Tyvek that used to appear at the 50-yard line at the vet for many years and he was the voice of the fans' usually displeasure with what was going on. But it's amazing because the Philadelphia Inquirer did a piece on him, and he's been on, I think, podcasts like this recently. And what else, Gina? He was recently
I think
on
he might have been in the press too,
the
so it's really
press.
Yeah.
good to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
You know,
deserves it because it was a big deal when it went on in the 80s, and it started with a banner, I believe. This is sad about the replacement players during the NFL strike back in the early 80s. That was his first one, I think. And then it just carried through from there. He was well known. It didn't hurt, by the way, that the banner was directly across from the owner's box. I
that
mean, it had easy.
location, location, location.
All the
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
Johnny's great, and now you can find him cooking for tailgate parties before the Eagles game, and also he has a catering business. It's a rodeo, and that's wonderful too. So he's transitioned from that long hair and sign man persona to now this. It's just really neat to see him still getting publicity for something he did 2 decades ago.
Yeah.
So really excited for
it was
John,
it was
and
it was great to see it. It makes you smile because
it
there were a
does.
lot of great memories of it. And I left out the fact that he was. I think he still goes on WIP, sports radio, Philadelphia sports radio, but he was a staple
Yeah.
of that
Oh yes.
for many many years. Everybody knew John from Hamilton or John Signman from Hamilton, and just a lot of great memories.
Hmm.
Speaking of making memories, I think Steven Spielberg is going to be making some memories in Cape May County. Anybody here going to apply to be an extra in his new movie?
I'll be
Probably.
down there.
Yeah. Yeah. Probably not. I'm interested in it. I had applied to be an extra 2001, 2000, back when they were filming the remake of Ocean's 11 in Atlantic City. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, great movie.
Yeah.
Love that movie.
One of the few times I think where the remake, and I realized that this may be a sin to say in the town of Hamilton, but where the remake I believe was superior to the original, with all the love in my heart for Frank, Dean, Sammy, and the rest. I think the remake was better. But I tried that. It was a neat experience, but I don't know. It's Spielberg, which is cool. It's Emily Blunt, Colin Firth, which is awesome. It's Spielberg and Aliens, which it's familiar territory for him, but I don't really know that he's kind of nailed that out of the park since E.T., and that was a long time ago. So,
Yeah, he got out of the gate well with Close Encounters of the Third Kind and E.T.
yeah,
And then we got into the muddier waters of, well, what did he do? We said War of the Worlds. We said
Indiana
Indiana Jones and
Jones.
the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull,
Yeah,
which was not well received.
no, no, it
Um,
wasn't.
I mean, maybe, but he must have something about aliens because I mean, this has been like a 40 something. You talk about decades,
Yeah,
like we just said about friendship, things like that, and people knowing each other. He's been on this subject for on and off for 40 some years,
no, I think
almost 50,
I think Close Encounters was 1970. No, it was 1977. Was Close Encounters. So yeah, he's
or close to 50.
yeah, and this movie is they're filming in Cape May with the extras in March, I believe, from the 10th to the 18th thereabouts, and it's scheduled to be released in 2026. So he's knocking right on 50 years of material here. Absolutely,
That's just
Unbelievable.
crazy.
I mean, what's crazy though is also that the Cape May has become sort of the Hollywood of the East. I mean, you had the recent Bob Dylan film that was
Yep.
filmed there and recently released, and now you have this. So I don't know what it is about Cape May all of a sudden, but apparently it's conducive to filming. And I mean, these are no small films. These
no,
are wide release big films.
yeah, this
So
isn't this isn't
Cape
a
May,
it's not a movie that me and my friends are filming. These are big names involved with it, and when you think about especially strolling around historic Cape May, it's picturesque, it's scenic, it's beautiful. So if that's the kind of landscape that you're going for, welcome to Jersey.
Yeah,
yeah,
and you
I
could go
think
from Cape May, and then if you want to go to the doo-wop era in Wildwood, and then that quintessential shore town of Ocean City with that beautiful boardwalk, and then work your way up to Atlantic City. There are all those different backgrounds and backdrops would be great for a lot of different types of movies. So we could maybe see that resurgence again in New Jersey. It would be great for the economy.
Absolutely.
was it? I forget. Don't we have a? Is Netflix based now in New Jersey as well?
They
I
might have
think I think
offices here.
yeah, I think there was a studio or something that they did at either an old base, army base or something. The point being that I think that the New Jersey wants to see this
Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of industry here, and I'm sure Cape May loves it, because of all the notoriety.
Oh yeah, New Jersey has wanted this for a long time. I mean, not even counting the fact that Tom Edison kind of started the whole film industry in New Jersey 125 years ago with Fred Ott's
there.
sneeze. There's a fun fact.
God bless you
Yeah,
for knowing that, Joe.
Well,
Really.
yeah,
I I took a film class,
that's an arcane fact.
but
Mhm.
I can
You took
remember.
a film class like 30 years ago. It's not like you took a film class last week. The fact that you retain that information is great. I have only 30 years ago, I have song lyrics in my head from 30 years ago. I
Uh,
am not gonna pull some obscure random fact like that, you know?
but
I'm glad that Villanova education was worth it. You
Oh,
could
no, I
have
know all the stuff
gone
my
there.
finance stuff is fine, but
Oh,
if
I
you ask me about
okay.
what
You
my
have that.
middle class like my liberal arts classes, I don't remember.
well,
Oh,
but I think it was in 1997 or 1998. I remember I had interviewed the head of the New Jersey Film Department or Film Bureau for an article because at that time, New Jersey was starting to become of interest, particularly with the filming of The Sopranos. And the state was
Mm,
hopeful then, which was almost 30 years ago, that it would really start to take off. And, it has in dribs and drabs, but maybe this will be assuming that the film is successful, maybe this will be the impetus for more production companies to come and film in Jersey.
yeah.
fair
How did the
enough.
Bob Dylan? Does anyone know how the Bob Dylan film did? I don't really know enough about it.
I know a couple
But
people who've seen it who said it's excellent and it's really well done, but I have not seen it yet.
I've heard the
one of
same
the
thing, and
things.
I've also heard that Bob Dylan himself is not overly enamored with it. So
Ooh,
Well, no, that sounds like Bob Dylan. Is he ever? But I will. But that's okay. I mean, he's a legend, so he has a right to
yeah,
feel the way he wants. The only thing I would say is that the city apparently Cape May looked great in it, and that was the whole point that they wanted to film someplace that looked like it was back in that era.
Well,
Obviously, it was not supposed to be Cape May, but it was supposed to look like it could be. They put cars on the streets that were vintage cars, and it looked like it went back in time.
That's very cool. I love
yeah.
that. We're 3 weeks into January and our resolutions are starting to either take permanently or they're starting to crack. And I think the Girl Scouts know this and they're preying upon people's vulnerabilities because it's cookie season. And they're out there, they're peddling their cookies. And it's just like, how do you say no when you see these young women out there selling cookies? Oh no, I'm sorry. I don't want anything that you're selling. Yes, I do. Bring me the thin mints. Like you know what I mean? It just feels very unfair. It feels like it's a lose-lose situation.
You just say no, thank
Do you
you, and
guys
keep
love Girl
walking
Scout cookies?
quickly.
You could say
I
that to a Girl Scout?
Well, I used to try and be
Some
polite
people.
about it, like, "I'm sorry, I don't have any cash." Then they started getting card readers, and so that didn't work. So, like, sometimes,
They
yeah,
got slick.
they got real slick, and I guess enough people said, "I don't have cash," where they're like, "Okay, well, we take Square," or whatever they've got. But I love Girl Scout cookies. I've always
Venmo?
loved. Pardon?
Venmo?
Venmo.
Yeah, but you know what? I don't have Venmo. I don't have Cash App. I think I have a PayPal that I haven't used probably since the last time I ordered something on eBay. Yeah, so it's been a minute,
I, you know,
but I love Girl Scout cookies,
that's
almost every single variety. But I shouldn't have too many of them, and if I start eating them, I'm just going to eat the whole box. Especially if it's the caramel delights, which are my absolute favorite, or is it the trefoils that are the shortbread cookies? The ones that are
Yeah, they're
shaped like the
boring.
girls. No, I
like the logo.
love shortbread cookies. I could just eat a whole box during this podcast, and then that just would not be good for me.
Next one, we're going to watch you do that. We're going to actually make you eat a whole box of shortbread cookies during the podcast.
Well, then we
But I
better
will
we
say
better have
this.
9 and 1 dialed, and then one more ready to
Yeah,
go. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I don't want to. Maybe we'll just have you do a few of them. But I do say it's a great tradition, right? I mean, that's the part I like about it. You got the moms out there, you got the kids out there, and the Girl Scouts are doing their bit, and it's almost like for me, it's an early sign of that winter is kind of moving along, and we're gonna move on to the spring because the Girl Scouts come out when this time of year every year start
Yeah,
selling.
for this region, yes, right now.
Yeah, so I mean, I wish them a lot of luck, and I think it's great to see them. It's good. It's a great tradition.
As
What are
the
your
only
favorite
former Girl
cookies?
Scout of this group, what's that, Joe?
What are your favorite cookies? Either one of you.
Well,
Well,
I
it's
can
either
answer.
the
You can answer first.
the chocolate peanut butter or the thin mints.
Ooh, I haven't had the chocolate peanut butter in
Yeah.
ages.
Tagalongs, I think.
Yeah.
But when I
It,
was a kid,
it,
now I'm gonna sound like Gabe. When I was a
oh,
kid and I was in the Girl Scouts, you had to go door to door to sell the cookies, and you would have to take pre-orders. You didn't buy so many boxes. You went literally door to door, took the orders, and then in a couple weeks after that, you would deliver the cookies. So it was much more difficult because you couldn't set up in front of a restaurant or a ShopRite or any kind of grocery store. You had to go this way. And, I don't think my parents were worried about someone assaulting me or kidnapping me. It was just go sell. And I wonder if that is why I have such an aversion to sales now, because I had to do that at such a young age from second grade on. And I was a Girl
yeah.
Scout for
Okay.
many years. So it was a little traumatizing. You felt like, a door to door salesman, like selling vacuums or something.
Yeah, I
And
was gonna say it was like
and
a chore for you.
well,
Must
yeah,
have been.
I wasn't, particularly great at it. So that was always annoying because I only like to do things as we know that I'm great at or good at or decent at. This was not one of them. And to just think of those memories, and I'm like, no matter how many times I watch The Music Man, I will never be a Harold Hill. I cannot just sell anything. It's a struggle. And so for me, it's mixed emotions. I'm happy to give them my money. I'm happy to buy their cookies. But I have so many memories of like going door to door and being like, "Hi, Mrs. Smith. I live around the corner. You see me once a year. Would you like to buy some cookies from me?" And it was tough. And I never even did never won any prizes for my salesmanship. It was well known that that was not going to be where you're going to get me. So,
I'm sure you had merit badges for many other things
yes,
besides
but it was definitely not for
cookies.
salesmanship. So, oh well,
Yeah,
that's okay.
my shortbread, like you, is favorite. I think those are the things that I always used to love about that. That was my favorite one.
Yeah. They're delicious. They're simple and delicious.
Speaking of finding things at the grocery store, we did our poll last week asking people how they shop for groceries. And there was a good number of answers, some great comments. And there was a good number of people who agree with you, Joe, that they don't like having their stuff touched.
See?
Most people were not strictly online like I am. They were more like Gabe, and they were hybrid people. Does that kind of fit with where you thought things were heading?
Yeah, more or less. I mean, I realize that I'm in many aspects a relic of a simpler time, and and well,
You think you go into the St. Anthony Mass? Like, I don't know if that's everybody's Friday night. Yeah, a little bit.
yeah, a little bit,
And the
little
fact,
bit.
yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
No,
But
no,
yeah, well, you look, you put it best. I don't think you used this exact term, but I think you said you were not enamored of people fondling your fruit.
yeah,
I think that I get that. I mean, because you're away from it and you don't know what's going on
yeah,
with the people who shop for you. And a lot of people, I don't know if people care as much, but there are enough people who still, want to go to the market themselves because they don't want other people touching their, you know, groceries.
yeah.
I get it.
But I remember years and years ago, before the pandemic hit, I had said that if Shop, and this was long before they offered it, that if ShopRite or any other supermarket started offering a service where you could just go online and they would deliver your groceries, I would gladly pay for it. Well, I was incorrect with that for reasons previously stated, but I can see why people would enjoy that. It's just not for me. And so I understand why there are an awful lot of people who are hybrid and an awful lot of people like you, Gina, who are just like, you know what, let me click some buttons, it shows up at my house. I don't even have to see people. I get that too.
There's something lovely about that. Just having it show up, it's great. I don't have to carry in cases of water or whatever it is. There is something nice about that. It brings us to this week's poll question, and this is a one that has caused some debate in Gabe and I in our relationship over the years. When to fill up your gas tank? Now, I am neurotic. Everybody who knows me knows this about me. I start to get panicky if our gas gauge goes below half. I don't know why. It's just something like we're never going to see another gas station for like 1,000 miles. We need to get gas now. So for me, if at the end of the day I'm at half a tank, I will probably go fill up. How do you guys approach this? Where do you approach? And let's be honest, because at least one of you, I know your tendencies.
I
Was
use
she speaking about you, Joe?
uh,
Oh, she means me.
I usually fill up right around the quarter tank mark, specifically when my gas gauge says that I have 75 miles to E. I'm like, all right, I can't go below 70 miles to E. I have to fill up now, which usually corresponds to about a quarter tank. I used to let it go, and when the reminder light came on, the low fuel light where you have a gallon to E, go fill up now,
No,
then I
I've
would
never
drive.
seen that.
Well, that's usually the low fuel light comes on when you've got a gallon of gas left, assuming that everything is working properly. So that would come on, and I'd be like, okay, well, I should probably get to the gas station today or tomorrow. And one of the perils of doing that is that the fuel pump now has to pump from the bottom of the tank where there's sludge and things build up and so forth. And I fried a fuel pump. And that was a very expensive, about 900 to $1,000 lesson learned. And so ever since then, I don't let my gas get that low at all because I don't need to learn that again.
Gabriel?
In the winter months, I try to keep the thing as filled as I can. In the summer months, I'll admit to being relaxed about it. Gina, I think, would say that I like get down to fumes, but I don't. It's low,
You've
but it's not
gotten
that.
better?
Thank you. That's so nice of you to say. Look,
I
it's
mean, do you remember when your your '53 Chevy didn't have a working fuel
Yeah,
gauge?
it did not have a floater.
Oh.
It did not have a brass floater. So we kind of had to estimate the 53 Chevy. I have an old car, and I've had it for my whole life. My whole life since I was 16 or 17, and it's a 53 Chevy 210, and it didn't have a floater in it for the longest time. I finally got the new tank with a floater in it, so the gauge works. But what's my excuse for my more modern vehicles where I would be low on fuel? I mean,
You were
those all
busy.
had, but I tend to get in the winter, especially. I was always told by my father, when it's cold, keep the gas tank, filled. So I try to do that.
Yeah, and I
No,
was
I think you were much improved.
yeah,
Well, thanks.
I was always told that if you keep a full tank in the winter, then you have all that extra weight, which actually helps if the roads are slippery or slushy, because when you figure that water is about 8 pounds to the gallon, gasoline I think is a little bit heavier. So if you've got a 12, 15, 20 gallon tank, you've got 100, 200 extra pounds for more weight and ballast and control in the vehicle.
There you
That's
go.
fair.
So,
So let us know, when do you start to fill up your tank? When is your, cutoff? Are you more like Joe, where you're quarter tank? Are you like me, half tank? Or you're like Gabe, where it's kind of all over the place? Sometimes it's half tank, sometimes it's quarter tank, sometimes it's 10 miles to empty. Let us know in the comments. We'd appreciate it. I do want to thank Gabe for checking on Joe and I, because we had 15 hours of trauma this weekend when TikTok went out on us and Gabe was checking in on us. Joe, you made a comment to me on Saturday when the people we follow all started making some videos, and I didn't get your reference.
Oh yeah, it was actually it was a thing of beauty the way everybody was coming out of the woodwork. Before I get to that, I think my absolute favorite was that, and I'm reasonably certain that it wasn't an official Microsoft account, but somebody on Saturday created an account specifically for Internet Explorer, and it's like, hey guys, I'm finally here the day prior. So that was my favorite. But
nice.
you had creators all over posting final messages with to the tune of "Nearer My God to Thee," which I thought was absolutely brilliant. And as I understand, you were
So now,
unfamiliar with that particular
I
tune.
was just going to say, Joe, off the show, we were having this conversation because we'll talk, before the show. And Gina had no idea what that reference meant. And Joe, elaborate. What does the reference mean?
Nearer My God to Thee was what the string quartet played on the Titanic as it was sinking, famously immortalized, I believe, not only in 1953's A Night to Remember, but most famously for modern audiences in 1997's Titanic by James Cameron, which everybody except you has seen. And why?
When you say
I know how
you,
it
you mean
ends.
Gina.
Yeah, yeah.
I know how the movie ends. I will not see a movie
Great.
if I know how it ends,
But you don't know how it
especially if
ends
it's got a sad ending.
with
Has a sad ending.
with the characters. You don't know any of the characters involved. You just know the boat sinks. And to that end, you knew how 1776 would end, but you still watch that every year, don't you?
Well, that's gonna have a good ending. We know this. The Declaration of Independence was created and signed,
Well, yeah, it's a good
and
ending if you're
we broke
American.
away from Britain.
It's sad if you're
You know,
British.
Well,
there's a
they're still
lot of
gonna.
there's a lot of action and romance in the 2.5 hours leading up to the boat sinking.
Yeah.
But
So I
she
like it.
doesn't end up with him. He falls off the door or whatever. I mean,
Well,
I read enough articles back in the day, Entertainment Weekly and such, that I
what do
knew
you
what happened, and you guys were all talking about it in the office, so I knew what happened.
look to
So I'm like this.
paraphrase?
Why am I going to watch the movie Lincoln? I know what's going to happen. It's not going to
Right.
end well.
Look, to paraphrase on your point about the door. To paraphrase the modern woman of today, she chose the door. I mean, that's what happened there. And I mean, it's look. I guess that's the way that goes for the poor guy, and he slips down into the water, and that's it. You didn't want to watch that because that's not your Hollywood ending. So
No,
when Joe
life
makes the
is
reference,
sad enough.
But there were some
I know.
there
So
were
when
some
Joe,
great performances. I mean, you had Kathy Bates who was the unsinkable Molly Brown. You know, you had Kate Winslet, you had Leonardo DiCaprio, who I think was really starting to come into his own as an actor at that point. You had Victor
Wasn't he
Garber.
on Growing Was he on Growing Pains? Was he
He
on that?
he was
Yeah,
he was
yeah,
on Growing
he
That was
Pains.
really
was.
good.
But I mean, you had
Mhm.
Victor Garber, and you had, I don't remember the man's name, but you had the gentleman who played Dr. Bombay on Bewitched. If you see,
All right.
yeah, if you see his face, you know exactly who he is. And he was that was one of his last film roles, I think, and he was fantastic. They were just fantastic performances up and down. And whether or not you know how it ends, you should watch it.
I think I know a lot about it also because of the Britney Spears video. Is it Oops, I Did It Again, where she has the
Are
guy go
you
out and he gets it out of
are
the
Oh,
you
ocean?
kidding me? That's your thing that the
th-
guy goes and gets the necklace.
So
okay.
good.
Wow. That's look, I don't know what to say other than it was an iconic film. I'm not saying it's for everybody, but I mean, it's sort of certain films you say to yourself, most people have seen it. It doesn't mean you have to see it, you know.
Right.
No.
But see, when Joe does the TikTok, "You're my god" to the references, you don't get it because you didn't see that.
No, because I
Explain
didn't see
movie
any of
moment.
I saw one of those, and then most of the videos that I saw were like, "Hey, I have a secret I haven't told you this whole time," and they were doing some quote for some TV show, which I also didn't get,
It was
and the
from
guy's like, "I
Family
never let."
Guy.
Oh, what was
Yeah.
that for the Godfather thing? Like, I never liked the Godfather?
Yeah,
And then they would tell you what their real secret is. Like, that's mostly what I saw. I saw one of that musical thing, and I didn't know what it was. Like, okay, whatever.
yeah, no, they were referencing an episode of Family Guy where the Griffin family thought they were going to die, and Peter confessed that he never liked The Godfather because it insists upon itself, whatever that means. But that's the quote they were using. That was from Family Guy, which I'm assuming you also haven't seen because you know how it ends.
No.
I just I want to sew this up by letting Gina off the hook a little bit in this regard. Both of you, yes, I had to sort of talk you off the ledge because of TikTok. But you didn't see Titanic, but I've never seen other than Gina showing it to me TikTok because I'm not on it. So I mean I'll admit to that. That you two are on TikTok. I don't know what's worse, not seeing Titanic or never being on TikTok. But like you, Joe, I'm a bit from a different era.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Fair enough. I mean, and that's okay. I mean, it's not for everybody. It's a little bit of a dopamine hit for me to watch all those videos.
Oh,
How about for you,
absolutely.
Joe?
Absolutely. And depending on the day and the algorithm, I get some real interesting things in my feed. Sometimes I get disgusting vintage recipes. Sometimes I'll scroll through and see 10
Dylan.
yeah, love him. I'll see 10
Yeah.
solid videos of people either doing lawns or refinishing hardwood floors, or I get Family Guy and Star Trek in my feed. It's really, you just scroll and it's dopamine hit. Dopamine hit. It's fantastic.
I will say this on a bit of sad news. The Franklin Villain had a fire. According to Facebook, the Franklin Villain, obviously in Franklinville, New Jersey, it is an amazing place to get a steak in this
Hmm.
region. Great ambiance, just a wonderful place to go. They had a fire last week, and it looks like they are going to be closed for a little while. Just want to let all of our viewers know that. Please check their Facebook page and website. So, but again, we wish them all the best, and thank you to the Franklinville Fire Company for, as they put it, dedicate their dedication saved this restaurant from becoming a pile of ashes. Thank you again, and we can't wait for you to reopen because it is a wonderful place. Gabe, you and I have been there a bunch of times. Joe, have you been to the Franklinville Inn?
I was there once a very long time ago, and
Okay.
I haven't been back, but I do remember that the steak was fantastic.
yeah,
It's one of
I
those
mean that's
places
a place.
that you mean to get back
Yeah,
to, and
correct.
it's the food was wonderful.
Yeah, it's a destination. I mean, you eat the bread, you eat the steak, as Joe said. The service is great. The ambiance is great. It's one of those places that is on the map for a reason. I'm so glad that something terrible did not happen. So we wish them well as they begin to put things back together.
In other news, Gene Barber, 73, of Hamilton, died on January 15th at his home after a lengthy illness. Coach Barber is known throughout South Jersey and New Jersey for his dedication to the wrestling community. Gabe, as someone who is more of a sports fan than I am, can you talk to me a little bit about Coach Barber and his commitment to youth wrestling?
I did not know him personally, but with the years of having the ability to access wrestling and sports, high school sports in general, through the media, I tell you, he is a legend. And anyone who looks at his obituary, and it's lengthy, and there's so many accomplishments on it, maybe too many to enumerate here, but he was synonymous with wrestling in southern New Jersey. His name was known because he was known for his excellence, and his teams were known for their excellence and their accomplishments.
And
And I just think it's a loss to his family, but it's also a loss to the wrestling community of southern New Jersey and New Jersey.
he was over a span of 33 years as the head coach at Apsagami. Barber's teams compiled a 507 to 137 and 4 record.
Wow.
I mean, that's just incredible.
Yeah.
That's why he's a legend. I mean, when you look at it, that's the kind of thing that it doesn't happen very often. It happens because there's someone very special who's at the top of the organization and of the team as a coach, and that you can't begin to fathom the number of lives, young people that he touched during the long career that he had. We wish his family the best at this time. I think it's like I said, a tremendous loss.
Again, our thoughts are with the Barber family at this time. You know, we think about faces that are familiar to us, and there are some that are just really very familiar. We've seen them in all different parts of our lives. And you, Gabe, had an interesting experience, I think, this weekend at a local pharmacy where you saw a familiar face, but not familiar to that pharmacy for you.
No, I was at Walgreens on Whitehorse Pike and ran
Picking up a
into
prescription for me.
uh,
Thank you.
right. You're welcome, and was happy to do so. And then it was a surprise, pleasant one to see Bill Olivo behind the counter at Walgreens, just starting out. Apparently, he has some hours there. Just throwing that out there because obviously a lot of people know Bill as a longtime pharmacist here in Hamilton and in other places. So it's great to see him back doing it, and just like the three of us are back doing our thing here, and Bill is back doing his thing there. So I don't know when his hours are, or when it's happening, but it was great to see him with the white coat on and behind the counter at Walgreens doing his thing.
Did he have
We
his
wish him
cowboy
well.
hat on that he used to have for council
No,
meetings?
no Billy the
Oh,
Kid
no,
cowboy
no
hat.
Billy
I
the
didn't see
Kid.
it. No Billy the Kid cowboy hat. I don't think that that's probably tolerated at Walgreens. I don't think, but you
Sure.
have to ask. There's a
Corporate
dress code,
corporate
but
dress codes.
but he looked like he was in his element. So that's great for Bill. We wish him a lot of luck in the new position.
I'm sure. Joe, you live in the region of West End. What's it looking like?
It looks like they've just clear cut everything. The progress that they're making for what I believe they're calling Pleasant Street Station, the 60 some townhomes that are coming on West End and Pleasant and Washington. I don't think they're going all the way over to Orchard, but I could be incorrect about that. There are giant mounds of trees that have been pushed and cut down. There are craters where the old modern clothing used to be, and where
Okay.
John Capelli's fertilizer business used to be, later part of Hamilton Package, Dick Battaglia's business. And Gabe, I don't remember, had you driven down West End? Because I hear tell that the old auction block is gone as well.
I did not get a chance to get down there. I will tell you that I believe it is gone, but I can't. You'd have to verify that because I know that they already had taken out the old platform because they took the girders from that up. That was the one with the concrete base that was an open
Right, right.
platform. That is already gone. I was saying to you, like we were trying to see if the cold storage, was gone. That building, if it isn't gone, it will be.
Absolutely.
Uh, and as I said to you, the look from Orchard, if you're coming down Orchard and you look to your left, you see those two Second Empire mansard roofed 3-story houses now, clear as day, that you never could see from Orchard. I mean, that's how much of a almost moonscape it is,
Yeah.
as you were kind of laying out there. It's cleared in such a way that obviously they're going to build new frame out new townhomes, and we'll lose that view of the street area. But for now, it's there. It's a unique view. If people want to, it's weird. I mean, it's very odd to see that whole area open the way it is
Oh, sure.
after so many years of buildings on.
Yeah, because I don't think that, and I don't believe this is hyperbole. I don't think there's a person alive today who is old enough to have seen that area previously that clear. I mean,
Yeah, I
not
think
just
you're
for
right.
the fertilizer building, but you had before that you had the aggressive building, the aggressive clothing factory on the corner of Pleasant and Washington that was there for 100 years, and so that view has never been this clear in living memory.
And I'll make a point. I know that I guess, Capelli slash Battaglia building was up on what passes for a hill in Hamilton.
Yeah, Suicide Hill,
But were you
actually.
surprised? Right. But were you surprised at the depth of the um, basement of that thing? I mean, it
Yeah.
really is amazing how deep that building went down.
Oh, yeah, and
I mean, it's just how would you know? But it
yeah,
makes sense
yeah, and
for storage.
I don't know I don't know if you have, but I had been in that building a number of times. A, when Dick Battaglia had it, and then B, afterwards when it was the casino surplus supply. And I had absolutely no idea that it went that deep. I didn't even realize, because it was so overgrown, that there was a loading dock on the end that went down along with that. Just things I had no idea that were there. I will say, what is interesting to see now is you used to be able to see on Orchard Street, right behind the building, the remnants of the old train tracks that the Blue Comet rode on. But now, if you go down Pleasant and look to your left as you're approaching Washington, you can see clear as day, not only tracks, but like track interchanges. I don't think that's been that uncovered in decades. So that's a cool bit of history to see.
Wild. I mean, again, it's just you're seeing that whole area get transformed in a way that it, as you put, Joe, has not been transformed in generations.
Yeah.
And there's nobody alive who remembers it before those buildings were there, and now we're here to see it with those buildings gone. And I don't know. I mean, it's definitely a transformation for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is going to change the entire landscape of that area. And Joe, I hope you take good photos for us so that at the end, when it's completed, we could put together like a little montage and show it go from nothing and being built back up, and watch all the change and the trees and the landscaping and everything, and just the way the traffic's gonna be. It's gonna be so different in when people start living there. I'm fascinated to see how it's gonna move.
And I, for one, am looking forward to the day when I can say to whoever lives there, I remember when this was factories far as the eye can see, before they take me
Yeah,
away.
it's great. Yeah, and they will. Haha.
Well, it's my favorite time of the show. Joe, what's the weather gonna be this week?
It's going to be cold. So I suppose you probably want a few more details than that. Um,
I
so,
would. I think our listeners would too.
Yeah,
so,
can you enumerate?
well, then it sounds like it's time for the Oddcast forecast, according to the app on my smartphone. Let's take a look.
Yes.
The absolutely frigid temperatures are starting to ease up a tad. Wednesday's high is going to be 20, but the low is still going to be 6 degrees. Thursday is going to be a tad less cold with a high of 33 and a low of 14. And Friday will feel absolutely balmy by comparison with a high of 36 and a low of 19. So it's going to continue to be cold, but not as absolutely horrendous as the beginning of the week, thankfully.
Appreciate that, Joe. Any snow for the midweek or towards the end of the week? Anything coming up?
Thankfully, no, it looks like it is going to remain cloudy or partly cloudy. So
Ugh,
there's going to be no additional precipitation or, snow with cold temperatures like that is one thing. But what always what always makes me nervous is when you have rain and then you have those frigid temperatures, because that just makes for an even more dangerous driving condition. So thankfully, that looks like that is clearing out of the way.
That's great. I'm happy to hear that. Well, thank you both. This has been another fun episode of the Oddcast. If anybody wants to get in touch with us, what do they need to do, Joe?
Well, I'm glad that you asked. For additional information,
I'm here.
Yeah.
For additional information or for sponsorships, they can find us on Facebook or Instagram. They can email us at jerseyoddcast@gmail.com or call 609 444 6178.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
See you next week.